Good evening and welcome to the Maple Mafia channel, y'all. I'm Tim Nichols of mrmaple.com. We're a family mail order business. We ship directly to your door. We have mrmaple.com, but on eBay, under the seller of Maple Mafia, we've got an amazing amount of trees getting listed each and every week. They start going off at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then they end going off at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time on eBay. So we've got a great assortment of really cool trees. There's actually 20 trees going off this evening. So super excited that we've got some different items that you wouldn't normally find on Mr. Maple. Some of them are stock plants. Some of them are first chances. Some of them are last chances. I mean, just a way to get some really cool plants that you haven't seen. Let's get into talking about some of these trees. Guys, going off first this evening, we've got Usagumo. Now, it's an XL 1 gallon. Usagumo is the batwing maple. It's the Acer pictum with white swirling in it. Now, one thing that people often forget is that when Usagumo first leaves out, you get almost a coral pink before it goes to that white swirling. And that just gives a really unique, eerie kind of feel to this batwing maple. It's fairly heat tolerant for us. You know, we've got one at my parents' house that's probably 12 feet now. It just has this really nice upright form, but those big leaves out there, there's just something awesome about how big that leaf is with that big variegation. Next up, guys, we've got Acer Shirasolanum ayagasa. This is a rare Acer Shirasolanum that has a really nice round full leaf. You know, it's not one that you see many times in the United States. We've listed it once on Mr. Maple and a few times here on eBay. Again, this may be one of the last chances to get ayagasa for quite a while here at Mr. Maple. You have some really nice oranges to reds fall color. And those full moon maples, there's, you know, very few full moon selections in the United States. And, you know, maybe 25 to 30. It's not like palmatums where there's like 1,500 different varieties. I mean, literally, we're talking 20 to 30 different varieties of Acer Shirasolanum. So if you're getting into collecting some full moon maples, here's an ayagasa. Now, next up, we've got Acer palmatum ojishi. This is the male lion's head. Many of y'all may be familiar with Shishigashira, which is the female lion. Ojishi differs in the fact that it's slower growing and it has a little bit flatter leaf. Now, it still has that crinkled effect to it, but not as much curling to the leaf as Shishigashira has. And so it has a really compact habit, excellent for bonsai, those small places. It is much slower growing. It still has a beautiful orange fall color, yellows to oranges to reds, but often you get a really nice pure orange in it. That's the longest fall color in it. It is an outstanding, really hardy, easy to grow dwarf Japanese maple, but you got to make sure that you give it plenty of good drainage, just like any other dwarf. Ojishi, super heat tolerant, and it is a slow grower. And when I say a slow grower, typically for us, a Welsh pot or a 1 gallon, what we've got here is a Welsh pot, is about in that 4 to 6 inch in height, and that would be a larger Welsh pot or 1 gallon. So it is a slow grower. That means when you're getting a small Welsh pot that's a 2-year tree, you are going to get a smaller tree. Next up, we've got Acer bajurianum miyasama yatsubusa. Again, there's not many of those Acer bajurianum selections out there. This is the macawood-like trident maple. It's got that tightly layering habit. It's got some coral pink new growth, though, which is really nice. And the leaf is more of that foremost sonum trident maple, so it's a little more rounded leaf. So it's a little more bubbly appearance, but you still have the 3 lobes that make the trident maple. It is, again, excellent for bonsai, small places. And again, this is another Welsh pot, slow-growing trident maple. Once this tree gets established, I have seen them get some height to them. Like our stock plant on the bank is probably 20 years old, and it's roughly 7 to 8 feet tall. And so it takes time, but they do get some height to them. Guys, next up after that, we've got Acer palmatum celebration. And it's in a 7 gallon. So we've got one of these huge 7 gallons from the Buchholz farm. Celebration is one of Talon Buchholz's most unique introductions. It has a pink red, like this just in crazy color of pink red that I've never seen on a Japanese maple, let alone a reticulated selection. It is one of his newest selections. Guimelo from France says this may be one of his best. I'd agree with him. I mean, it is outstanding. There's nothing else like it. And the intensity that celebration has each and every spring is unlike any other tree. The 7 gallons got some great size, The 7 gallons are one of the biggest sizes that we can ship in the container. So take advantage of this awesome big size. Guys, next up we got Nebula. Another member of those new ghosts like Celebration. Strong upright habit. I would compare the colors on Nebula the closest to Firefly of any of them. You get some really nice pink colors in the spring. Sometimes you can get almost like a clear white when it first leaves out, which clear white with green reticulation, which looks like the Milky Way Nebula. Good, strong, upright habit, and one of the best fall colors. I mean, you get some really nice bold reds out of Nebula, which is outstanding. It is an amazing member of those new Ghost series. And again, 7 gallon. Take advantage of those huge sizes. Next up, guys, we've got a bonsai baby and a 1 gallon. Bonsai babies are a dwarf seedling. All the seedlings of bonsai babies are slightly different because they do come from seed, not from graft or rooted cutting. Their tightly dense habit makes them excellent for bonsai. Excellent to put out in small places. You know, it would be cool to put one of these out, collect seeds from it down in the future for more bonsai, because you're going to have many with that similar tightly layering habit and small leaves, or to do rooted cuttings from. So there's a lot of things you can do here with these little bonsai babies. Next up, we got Kawahara Rose. Now, I mentioned Guimelo France. This is actually his introduction. And Kawahara Rose leaves out as a bright pink red in the early spring. It's an upright habit, 6 to 8 foot, and then it goes to green. But the neat thing about this is those pink red new growth during the summer flushes look like roses, like you've got the green down below and the red on top. It's outstanding. It's one of my more favorite spring interest Japanese maples, and it's one that you don't see that frequently in the trade. Next up, we've got a 2 gallon of Gossamer. Gossamer is one of the slower growing Acer japonicum selections by Billy Schwartz. It was found as a chance seedling there in Lima, Pennsylvania, right in Red Maple Nursery. So at Red Maple Nursery, he had this big Acer japonicum that was labeled aconitifolium, and honestly, it's more like, we've often put the name parent Gossamer on it because it has a leaf that's slightly divided, but not as divided as Meikujaku. Amazing tree. And from this progeny, they found Gossamer. Now, Gossamer had that silver kind of color, and it reminded him of the threads on, the threads Gossamer. Matt and I, when we saw it, we thought it was after the Bugs Bunny character Gossamer because, you get that big fluff ball. But this is a selection that has phenomenal fall color, yellows, oranges, and reds. It is really slow growing. I got a photo years ago with the original Gossamer, and you'd think some of the originals are huge, but you got to remember sometimes these things are on their own roots. And so the original Gossamer, I was 17 or 18, standing there to Billy Schwartz and holding a 3 gallon Gossamer, and it was 15 years old. And it's probably, a foot and a half tall. And so it's amazing what can happen when you actually graft a tree to a rootstock, because you can actually get more vigorous and a better plant for people in the landscape. And that's what they've done with Gossamer. You've got an amazing small little Acer japonicum. And on the original japonicum, the leaves were so thin that it almost looked thread-like leaf. But then now when you graft it, the leaf gets a little thicker and a little more healthy and creates a better plant for you in the garden. It's really cool. All right, guys, next up, we've got Mr. Miyagi. Now, this is a selection by Joel Johnson out there at the Buckholtz farm. And this is a Makawa seed that he'd grown for years that really has some really cool twists and curves in it. And he thought it looked like a little bonsai. He put the name Mr. Miyagi on it. So we're, growing that and seeing everything that can happen with it. We released that once before at an open house. It's never been listed on MrMaple. So take advantage of these Mr. Miyagi getting listed today. There's one, going off today, this evening, and that's sometime between 6 o'clock p.m. and 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next up, we got Makawa Sharps. Now, sometimes this is called Makawa X Sharps, and it's because it has a leaf almost like Sharps Pygmy. It's got a little more divided leaf, and it's got the tightly layering habit of Makawa Yatabusa. Now, no one is actually claiming that this is a hybrid between the two, but what they're saying is it looks like somewhere in between the two on its characteristics. And it's got that tightly layering habit. It's a little bit slower growing than Makawi Yatsubusa. Good red fall color. Guys, next up, we've got Blackstone's broom. And Blackstone's broom is a broom, you know, just recently we did a breakdown on the Mr. Maple show. If you hadn't checked out our Mr. Maple show here on YouTube, go check that out and subscribe there as well. I've got a full breakdown on Blackstone's broom, a new witch's broom, and kind of what witch's brooms are. There are these dwarf mutations that happen, and this one happened down in Greenville, South Carolina, in one of our customers' trees, and he called us. We went down there and took cuttings, and this tree is under evaluation. You know, we're still seeing if we want to be able to, we want to be producing this in more numbers. You know, we've probably got 10, 15 plants down there at the nursery, and it's probably a little more than we needed for evaluation. So we're dropping one here on eBay. Now, next up, we've got Little Alex. Little Alex is a selection by Bob McCafferty. And to me, it may be one of his best introductions. He's the one that brought us Alpine Sunrise. He brought us a lot of the Catholic series. He brought us Babe's Dwarf. Little Alex has some of the best pink-red color on a compact, dense witch's broom of any of them. The color on it is very rich and bold, and to me, it is amazing. It's likely going to be a dwarf in that 6-foot range in 10 years, dense, compact, rounded habit. But the color on this one is outstanding. Again, jump on this. Very rare, rarely getting listed. I don't know if we've ever listed on Mr. Maple. Maybe we have, but if we did, it was in very limited numbers. This one's one of our stock plants. I'd already cut wood and sent to our Buckholtz farm getting produced for this winter. And so I felt confident that I could actually let go of a stock plant of this. An amazing little tree. If you don't have it, you're going to want to get it. Guys, next up, we've got Laura's Love. This one hasn't been listed on our new website. It's a selection by Del Laux. That's the nursery that brought us Lillian's Jewel, Cotton Candy, Akakawa Hime, Benny Hoshi, Emerald Lace, and Laura's Love. Now, Laura's Love was a seedling he was evaluating, and one of his relatives loved it, and so it became Laura's Love. It's got some good red color to it that is really nice. It's a slow grower, typically reaching basically about 3 feet by about 4 to 5 foot in width in 10 years. It's a little slower growing than many of the other lace leaves. Again, not one that I've really listed frequently, but it's one that's getting listed today. I don't think it's ever been listed on the new Mr. Maple. So take advantage of this. A shout out to Dan Everett. Dan Everett was actually the guy who sent us signwood on this because I'd actually lost my stock plant on Laura's Love and couldn't find it. It's probably somewhere around here, and we'll probably find it sometime soon. But he'd sent a signwood on it just so we didn't lose this cultivar. Guys, next up, we've got Acer Shirasolanum Magic Moon. This is one of our introductions. It was actually a chance seedling that was being evaluated by Jonathan Savage, and he sent it to us and traded it to us, and we introduced it as Magic Moon. It's a Shirasolanum that's got a crumpled leaf to it. Like the leaf sort of twists and curls a little bit, and then it's got this yellow malting variegation in that green leaf. One of the few styles of variegation you don't see frequently in other plants, or you really see in many other Japanese maples. Very unique and different, often chased after because it's been years that we didn't actually get Magic Moon produced enough to be able to offer it on Mr. Maple. We offered a few sets this year, so hopefully a lot more people were able to get it and appreciate it. But again, found another one here at Mr. Maple, so I thought I'd drop it here on eBay. Next up, we've got El Tigre. And we're starting to get into some more. The next 5 are all Makawa types. And that's going to be in the last 5 on today's eBay. So these are the ones that are going off later. Y'all, El Tigre is a really neat variegated Japanese maple. It's got that Makawa tightly layering habit. It's got green on green variegation. And the green is irregular. Almost, I would compare it to something like relish. When it first leaves out, you don't see the variegation as much, but the leaves sort of cup downward, which have this really cool look on the Makawa type. And then as late spring happens, that variegation becomes more intense. And as summer gets here, that variegation is really showing nicely of the light green on darker green. Awesome little Makawa type. Love the name El Tigre, the tiger. and not Tiger King or Tiger, all these other things Matt might joke about sometimes. Awesome little dwarf. Next up, we've got Japanese Princess. It's one of the first Makawa variants. Twisting leaf to it, selection by Talon Buchholz. Good pink color, tightly layering habit. Next up after that, we've got Red Panda. Now, Red Panda is one of our introductions here at Mr. Maple. There's been a few people try to act like they had Red Panda. They don't. We dropped it last year for the first time at Mr. Maple. It's a bold red. Bold red. And it holds that red longer than any of the other Makawa types. So if someone last year was saying they had Red Panda, trying to offer it or different things, not true. We never released it, so it couldn't have been out there. It's one of our patented selections that has a tightly layering habit, and it's got one of the best red colors. So we evaluated thousands and thousands of red Makawa Yatsubusa seedlings and found the best. So anything other than Red Panda itself, probably going to be a letdown. Red Panda is awesome, and the only place to get Red Panda is on the Maple Mafia here on eBay or through Mr. Maple. Next up, y'all, we've got Kryptonite. This was a sport that was found on Makawa Yatsubusa, and it has a variegation more like Manny no Sato when it goes to that green on green, but with the sickle-like leaf and sickle-like variegation. When I mean sickle, that's the shape. The leaf will actually curl a little bit, which is really nice. And it's got that on a Makawa Yatsubusa style. So there's nothing else quite like Kryptonite out there. And that green on green variegation is outstanding. Now, during the fall, you can actually get more of that orange kind of color that you get out of Manny no Sato, which is unusual. I mean, it's a little different than your typical Makawa Yatsubusa fall color. I'm wondering if that style variegation just sort of changes something in the makeup to give fall color. It'd be something cool to figure out one day. And lastly, on today's eBay on Maple Mafia, we've got Mayday. And Mayday is one of the most sought after trees. Selection by Talon Buchholz. It's got a really nice coral pink when it first leaves out, and then it goes to like a yellow. And that yellow is outstanding. It's one of the, when you go in the Makawa garden at Matt's house, you see all the different Makawa variants, but then you see the Mayday, and it's typically this really nice blonde kind of look. Y'all, a lot of cool plants going off this evening. Now, if you're going to try to figure out how to get there, how to find our trees that we're listing, you can go to mrmaple.com/eBay. And that will take you to our sellers page where you can see all the items that we have listing. Now, today, as all these items are going off, there's actually new items getting listed for next week. And so, there's a full 7 days to be able to shop and bid on those. But today, some awesome trees going off. We appreciate y'all jumping in today on today's Maple Mafia eBay talk. Take care, God bless, and have a great day.